This is the second day of the Front Sight Firearms Training Institute Practical Rifle course, and it was awesome. We had a great time. Now, the first thing we did, we got there in the morning, and they had all these ammo boxes laid out, and we sighted in our rifles. I was wondering why didn't we do that the first day, but really the first day we were just really getting used to handling the rifles. They were getting used to us. They were finding out who knew how to handle a rifle. It's all different levels of experience there. I want to make sure that everybody was safe. The first day was great. The second day was a ton of fun. My son, of course, has his rifle already zeroed in. I had mine zeroed in before I got there. And so we thought, well, we'll just kind of go through this and see how we do. The help that they gave us in zeroing in made a big difference. We thought we had it pretty well dialed, and we did, but a couple tweaks here and some recommendations made a big difference. The first thing we do, we get out there on the 50-yard line, and we zeroed in on the 50-yard line, which is, most people will zero in on the 100-yard line. We zeroed in on a 50 because we are primarily targeting 200-yard shots. And that sounds like a long way away, and trust me, it is a long way away. But due to the arch of the round, the bullet, when it travels, a 50-yard shot will land at the same place a 200-yard shot will land. And so they had us sight in at 50 yards. So we got down in the prone position, and we took a few shots. I think it was 3 shots. And then we go up and we check the target, make sure everything was where we wanted it to be. Then they made adjustments. So after we took our 3 shots, we went down to the targets, and you can see up here where they're making adjustments. They're saying here, up 10 clicks, to the right so many. That was the first round of shots. And then it was, this many here to the left, and this many down, and so forth. And then they were marking over here again too. So they really, with 3 shots at a time, would come in and they'd move things around. Very unorthodox way of sighting in, but very quick and very precise, and minimize the number of shots needed. So that's what I look like after getting everything sighted in. After we get things sighted in, you can see we move down to the 200-yard range. Now that's what it looks like from 200 yards. That's quite a stretch, especially if you're using iron sights or red dot, no magnification. So what we did when we got down to the 200-yard range is that we started using magnification. Now my son Ben had a 3x magnifier on his red dot, and what we found out is you do not want to use magnification one time and not use it another time, because the magnification, unless exactly aligned with your red dot, will throw off your zeroing. We also found that you really don't need magnification at all, even at 400 yards, and I'll show you that tomorrow when we go to the 400-yard range and I talk about day 3. We were not rushed in getting things sighted in. They took time. It was individual attention to every shot that we took, and they made the adjustments for us. They had all the tools there to make the adjustments regardless of what platform that you had. Then they taught us different stances. This got into a lot of fun, and they showed us the prone, the squatting, the kneeling, all the different stances, and how to get into the positions. Of course, you want to check left, right, make sure that the bad guy's buddies aren't coming after you before you get up. And so here we have the instructors starting from the standing position and then moving down into the kneeling position, telling you exactly which foot to move, where to put the foot, where to put your cheek of your butt when you get down, every little minutia, so that when you are down, you are solid. One tip that I really like is that you don't want to put bone on bone. Don't put your elbow on your knee. That isn't stable and it isn't comfortable. You notice that he's got his elbow on his thigh instead of on his kneecap. You notice he's sitting on the heel of his boot. A lot of detail here that they'll go into when you're at front sight and make you solid. You have a solid platform to shoot from when you follow the way that they teach you how to use these different positions. Here's how to get up from your position so that you're always at the ready and are alert to what's going on. Here's another position, not used very much, but something I had never considered, and that is you may want to do this if you're in a muddy area and you just don't want to get down on your knees or your belly, and but this still gives you great support. You can see where his arms are tucked inside his knees. Just great information here. Here's the seated position. This position my son and I really liked. We were able to practice this and get in and out of this position and get shots off under a second and a half on target at 200 yards. So with some practice, some dry practicing at the hotel and getting up and down in those positions really made a big difference. Then we were back on the range and we were taking practice on shooting things sticking out from around a corner. And this is also a good example why you don't want to be sticking out around a corner, because somebody can shoot you. So as you can see here, Ben shot this bad guy's hand here. That would really mess up your day and mess up your ability to shoot here. But you can see he shot him over here, and you can see he shot him back here too. So we were practicing precise shooting with just inches of a bad guy sticking out over the edges. After we did all the position practicing, then we went to Death Valley. This was awesome. They loaded us up. They drove us. This facility is pretty large, and so they have transportation to drive around from shooting ranges and so forth. But they took us out, a few at a time, out to the canyon, and we had a great time. They had several targets set up. I won't go into details where they were placed and so forth, because you need to experience that yourself. But I tell you what, this is something to look forward to. It goes by way too fast. I will give you a heads up though, this is not a timed event. So take your time, have fun with it, look around, look for the bad guys, look for the bad guys that have the good guys. I learned a lot on this course. It was really a rush. Ben did awesome. I did awesome. It was a great experience. One thing I did learn was I was shooting at a bad guy over a berm, and I had him in my sights. I shot, no hit. I shot again, no hit. And the guy that was with me, the instructor, just kept saying low, low. And then he explained to me what was happening is that my bore of my rifle is lower than my scope. And so even though I had the bad guy in my sights, because my bore was lower, I was actually hitting the berm between me and the bad guy. A great lesson that I picked up from that experience. So this is something definitely to look forward to when you're out on the precision rifle course. Even though you're on a 2-day course, you still get to go through Death Valley. Here's Ben coming back from going through what we call Death Valley. Just all grins and giggles. We just had a great time. Can't emphasize that enough. It was a lot of fun. After some more instruction, we get back out on the range. Here you can see we're at the 50-yard line, and we're practicing in the prone position. These are not timed events, but they are teaching us how our body affects our accuracy. And here, there are so many things wrong with how I'm in this position right now, I won't even go into it. But just to say, I learned a lot. I was good, but I wasn't very good in this position. I made a couple changes. They'd say, do this, do that. And I tell you what, it made a big difference in how solid I was. When you are solid and you're anchored to the ground, your first shot's good, and your second shot is still there because the rifle really isn't moving because you're solid. You're the base. Okay, there's a lot going on in this photo. I just want to point out to you first, if you're left-handed, this is going to be a little bit tougher for you because unless you've got a left-handed rifle, which I don't, and I purposely did not buy a left-handed rifle, but you're going to have some challenges with controls. So here you notice that I have my left thumb not around the grip, but on the left-hand side. That's because that's where the safety is, and you're constantly putting the safety on and off when you're on the range. So I was trying to use my index finger to change the safety. I was trying to use the palm of my hand, the fatty part under the thumb, to try to move the safety. And finally, for me, I found that using my thumb was what worked. And then I was, of course, moving my thumb all the way around the grip to grab a hold of the rifle. and an instructor, they're always looking over your shoulder. They're there to help. And he just kind of whispered, hey, you might consider just leaving your thumb on that one side. You don't really need to grab the grip with a closed hand. And he said that might be more comfortable and help you out. I made that change, and I tell you what, it was one of the greatest recommendations I had all day. And I stayed that way, and that's how I shoot now with my thumb on the left-hand side. It's always there on the safety, turn it on and off, and I'm much faster in getting the shot off than taking the time to mechanically move my thumb around. Another thing that you'll see here is I have my impact electronic earmuffs. It is required to have electronic earmuffs on the range, and I highly recommend and of course own the Impact Sport electronic earmuffs, and they are one of the very best at a very, very low price. I'll have a link below this video where I bought mine on Amazon at a great price. And I've mentioned this in a previous video, is I keep these next to my bed in my nightstand because they do amplify noise, and if somebody breaks into my house, I want to be able to hear everything that's going on. So I actually have done this in the past, heard some noise at night, reached in the drawer, pulled out my Impact electronic earmuffs, put them on, and I was able to hear everything going on in the house and knew exactly what I needed to do. There are some other ones that are less expensive. You're wearing these things all day long, and if you got glasses on, which you're going to need safety glasses or prescription glasses, if you get some uncomfortable earmuffs, you're going to be hating life. These are very comfortable, and most importantly, if you're going to be using them for personal security at home, they don't have a red glowing light on them when they're turned on. So your head is not a target because you've got the other brand that has the little LED sticking off the side. In preparing to go to front sight, I wanted to modify my rifle with everything I thought I was going to need at front sight. Now what we found out is that you really don't need to do hardly any modification, if any at all. You don't even really need a scope. And we'll talk about that tomorrow when we talk about going out to the 400-yard range, which was totally awesome. But one thing I have added, and this was something that my son Ben gave to me for my birthday, and that is this bad lever. This is actually designed for right-handed people, but for left-handed people, it is awesome. What this does is it allows you to reset the bolt quickly and smoothly with your right hand. Now, the bolt release on the AR is on the left-hand side. It's very cumbersome, especially when you're doing reloads and malfunctions, to get that bolt released or to catch it to keep the bolt open. With this bad lever, and I'll have a link below this video, it is fast and smooth and awesome. This is by far one of the best modifications, and very cheap, that you can make to an AR that will dramatically speed up your transitions when you're doing reloads and dealing with malfunctions. So basically what it allows you to do with your right hand, in other words, if you're right-handed, you've got your hand on the grip, and you can, with your index finger, your trigger finger, you can just reach out and touch this bad lever, and it'll send the bolt back home and charge the weapon. Or you can push it up with your index finger when you pull back the bolt lever, and it locks it open. Ben had this on his gun, and he was in timed shooting, doing reloads and malfunctions, was getting everything at half the time. In other words, if we had 3 seconds to do something, he was doing it in 1.5 seconds. For a left-handed guy, it is awesome because the hands are in the wrong position for doing all these malfunctions, and this bad lever really, really came in handy. Highly recommend the bad lever. Again, check the link below for that. Here's a picture of me in a different position. This is the first day we're studying these positions. You can see I'm not in the right position here, and I'm off balance. I can tell just by looking at it. Got much better at that in the next 2 days. That's the real big advantage of a 4-day course, is that you really learn some basics the first 2 days, and the next 2 days you're really fine-tuning them. So when you walk away, your confidence level is just through the ceiling because you've done it enough that you know you can just drop it into that position and you'll be locked in. And that ends day 2 with the Front Sight Firearms Training Institute precision rifle course. Day 3 is when we go out to the 400-yard range, and man, I tell you, that is something to experience. I'll share that with you tomorrow. This is LDS Prepper reminding you, if ye are prepared, ye shall not fear. And if you go to Front Sight and get training through the practical rifle course, ye shall not fear. Check the links below if you're interested in getting more information on any of the items I talked about in this video.